Hello and welcome to the CASE scripting overview. In this video, I would like to show you just a few things that you can do with scripting, just some examples, as well as an overview of some of the things that you can do with scripting, such as pushing software and changing different types of configuration within your operating systems and applications. So to get started, let's go to the scripting section. And scripting can be used a couple different ways. It can be used, again, to push applications, especially with more complicated types of applications, things that maybe need to have some services stopped and started manually, move some files around, such and so, things like that. Some other things it can be used for are running automation types of tasks. So think like running, Windows temp cleanup. You can use it to install printers, remove printers. Really can be crafted to do quite a few different things. So what I'm going to show first is I'm just going to open up and go through an example of a script I have here that cleans up Java. So I've got a couple different versions I've worked with in the past. I think this is a good one to kind of start with and kind of show you some of the things around here. So first from the top here, I kind of want to just cover some of the different parts of the script page itself. First is the name, and then the enable checkbox. This really only has to deal with if you have scripts that run on a schedule. So if you're scheduling a script to like run every Monday at 8 a.m. or something, this turns that on and off. So this doesn't mean that you can't run the script manually. It just means it's going to turn it on and off according to its schedule that it has. Next is the type. The one you probably want to stick to the most is going to be this first one, the online case script. Next is the online shell script. And essentially what that does is if, let's say you just want to run just a batch file, you just paste the contents of your batch file or your shell script, depending on like if it's a Mac or Linux distribution, and it will just run it as is. And then it'll still use any dependencies you've attached to it, but basically anything you punch in here, it will just run it as is. Now for Mac and Linux, you probably want to keep it as that extension, the SH. For Windows, you want to make sure to change that to .bat if you want it to run that. This is great if you have a batch file already made and you just want it to run that, and all your logic, if you have it like check for things and stuff in it, or any remediation is all done in your script. This is a good thing to run just for that. Keep it nice and simple. The other option in here is the offline case script. Now, this is very similar to the online case script. It still has all these options down here, which I'm going to go through here shortly, except this will run even if the agent is not connected to the appliance over the AMP connection. So you could say you wanted like a cleanup script to run, at 2 a.m. Even if someone has a laptop at home that's not connected to your appliance, it would still run at that scheduled time. It would just need to have had connected at least one time to get the script dependencies and all that, which we call the scripting update. That's actually a task you can go view under settings. So it just has to hit that interval first so that it can run that script at its scheduled time. We don't usually recommend running those too often, but again, if you have certain situations where you have to do that, then by all means do so. But it's preferred to try and do the online case script or online shell script if you can. Next is the status. This doesn't really provide any functionality other than just telling you, where you're at in it. If it's something that's ready for production, or if it's something you're still working on, or if it's a template kind of script. Again, just kind of an informational type of field. Next is description. I just let you describe it. Notes. Again, you just enter in any notes for it. Deploy. This will be where you decide what devices to push this script out to. Along with targeting what devices, this also will determine what types of options you have available down in the script section. So if I go to this Manage Operating Systems section here, let's say if I pick all, then in my options down below, the types of fields I have will only be ones that will apply to all versions, so all Windows, Mac, and Linux. So things like kill a process, launch a program, those are kind of universal. We can do across all of those. Whereas if I were to go and choose, say, just Windows, I'll then have different Windows options available in here. So notice I have Registry Key, things about that, kind of unique to Windows, software package. Those are things that just Windows has, and so on and so forth. So it's important what OSs you target up here in that box. Next is the run as. So one of the main differences in, say, distributing software with distribution and managed installations and scripting is managed installations are only going to run as a local system account, whereas scripting, I can have this run as local system, but I can also have it run as the logged in user, all logged in users. So if there's multiple users, it's going to try and run it for all of them. And credentials lets me pick a specific user. So if I've got a service account or an admin account I want this to run as, I can elevate it using that. So this gives you a little bit more power over what you can do over what, say, a managed installation could do. Next is just the notify. So this can just do a little notification window. It can give an OK, snooze, cancel. You can give timeouts. You can give them a pop-up message before the script runs. Have it run on a schedule. You can also have it run without a user logged in. So that's important to have. So if someone's not logged in, you don't have this checked, then the script won't run. It had only run if someone's logged in. So important to check that. And then if you want this to run, let's say you ran it and this machine wasn't online, wasn't connected to KACE, you could say go ahead and run it the next time they connect, if you want to do that. And we don't really cover this too much in any other videos or discussions we have, but this edit XML here, this just lets you see kind of the raw viewer of the script. I don't really ever get into here very often at all. The only time I've ever used this, if let's say I wanted to send somebody my script and I wanted to do it kind of quickly, minus, let's say, any dependencies. This just grabs everything that the script is configured to do. In fact, this is kind of what the endpoint client gets, is they get this XML file, and that's what our agent reads to run this. So that's the only time I've ever really used that. Other than that, I don't really ever mess with that at all. Let me go back to the default editor here. Good. Next, and if you have a blank script, this task won't be here. You have to say add task, but once you do, you'll be presented with the verify on success remediation and this dependency section. So if you wanted to add some dependencies, you just hit add, you choose the file, and pick out whatever file. It'll take pretty much anything you want. The only restrictions to this is the size. If it's bigger than 1.8 gigs, there's a limit on PHP that prevents from uploading anything bigger than that. And the way I've gotten around that before is uploading a file to the client drop on the appliance, and I'll kind of show you now what that looks like if you're not familiar with that. So I'm just going to bring this up, and let's see, and it may not work since Windows 10 is a little different now when it comes to file shares. In fact, I think I tried this the other day. Yeah, so anyways, you just go to the share of this and go to /client. That'll be the share, and then you can upload things that way. And then once you do that, you can associate those to a software record. So let's say I go to distribution, distribution, and I'm just going to click on something like this and go to its software record that I have this link to. So in here you can say, it's probably not going to show up there because I don't have any files, but if I had something in the replication share, there'll be an option in here. I can say choose file from client drop, and then you could just associate it to the software record and use that instead. And now it's actually stored on the appliance, and then you could use it from scripting. There's actually an option called, I think it's the install software package. So let's say that Flash one I wanted to use, I had to manage install for, I could actually just reference that, and then it'll download it from there. And then I could give it any switches it needs to actually run it. So the way that the scripting engine will work is this. It's kind of like, if this is true, do this. If not, do this kind of logic. In this case, they call it remediation. So you're basically verifying, is this information, was it what it's supposed to be? So in this case, I have this looking for a register, or actually an EXE version. It says if this version is equal to or greater than version 8, then don't do anything. I basically have it for and this is good practice to do, is to include any what it's supposed to have. I put basically a log a message step here, and just in the output says, yeah, you're good. You're already on 8 or higher already. So I verified it, and if it's true, it's not doing anything. It's just logging a message saying, yes, it is at the version it's supposed to. It's good for when you're looking at your script results later and you're not sure where it's at in the script. If it gets to there, then you know it just went from verified on success. And then the remediation part it says basically, okay, well, if you're not on that version, then I want you to remediate, means get it to what I want you to be so that this is true, or this is true. So I have it, again, for logging purposes, it helps you troubleshoot and helps you know what part of your script it's going to get to. It says removing previous versions of Java. And then the next part, I have it running a batch file. And I basically just pasted this in from something I found on IT Ninja. And what this does in this particular example is it's running a batch file that looks for anything with the word Java in the name of the software. And actually, since it has the percents there, it means it's looking for it in the beginning of the name. And then it looks in the registry key of that software and finds the uninstall command and runs the non-interactive version of it. So it's pretty smart. It knows that that's the silent command version of it. And in this case, if there's multiple versions of Java, it will remove all the previous versions of Java for it. And then next, I have it log and say, okay, it's now going to be installing the new version. That's just a log step. In this one, I have it launching a program. Now, launching a program is another very powerful step because you can have it run all kinds of different programs and executables. And I'm actually using a case variable in here. So this is a very common one I use. It's the dependency dir one, which you can actually get a whole list of those right here. So next to this tasks, it's this tiny, tiny little question mark. And this gives you all those variables you can use. So if you need to reference that dependency directory, what's great is this will be dynamic across, let's say you're doing Mac, Windows, and Linux, or you're doing different flavors of Windows where that might be in program files or program files x86 or something like that. These will adjust accordingly depending on what OS it runs this on. So this one is saying, okay, look in that directory, which is where these dependencies are going to sit. So I'm having it run this exe. So I'm saying, okay, look in here. That's the file you're going to run in that directory. And then this is the switches it's going to give it. So in this case, I'm saying install the configuration file equals, again, using that variable. And what's great is I can use this variable in these kinds of white text boxes. They don't always work from the batch file. So if I were to put that dependency dir in here, I don't think we actually read that and let it use that because it's basically at that point running as just a Windows script and it doesn't know what that is. But these white boxes here in the script, they understand those. So that's why I like to use this launch a program, because then I don't have to hard code things into my batch file. I can just use that in here. Because this dependency directory may vary between system to system. So let's say I give you this script I have here and shared it on IT Ninja for you to import. Well, if I put in C program data, quest case, kbots cache, 42, let's say that's the ID number, that's going to be different on your system than mine. When you import it, Case is going to give it a different ID number, and then this will break that. So that's why I like these variables, because then you don't have to worry about things breaking in that sense. Another thing about this is you can also say to wait for completion, or you can have it be visible or not. I usually uncheck both of those. Sometimes I will check this. If you have a bunch of things running together, I'll have issues where it doesn't know the previous task is finished, so I'll check that to make sure that it looks to see if that's completed. So basically I said, if this is true, then, okay, really don't do anything, just log a strip. If it's not, then run my remediation. And then you can say, if that remediation ran successfully, then log a message. If it failed, then you could say log another message to say, no, it did not. You could also have it, run zip files or upload a file, things like that. And let's say you have another task that you want it to, as part of Java, maybe you then want it to have another software installed. So maybe Java is a dependency for another program you have. You could then have that run as a secondary task, and it has its own logic. You could say, hey, is this software installed? If not, then install it. And go through the same kind of procedures there, all within the same task. And you can even have it attempted a few times. Maybe there's some scripts or some commands and software you install that just for some reason or another you try and run it once, it doesn't work, you run the same exact thing again and it works. So you could just say, okay, we'll try it 2 times or try it 3 times. And then if it does fail in these 2 tasks I have run here, let's say this task doesn't run, it fails for some reason, then I can say on failure, break. That means don't go to the second task. Let's say the second task, again, Java may be a dependency, or maybe it's .NET as a dependency for task 2 to succeed. So I'm like, well, I don't want task 2 to run because it's going to break anyways because it doesn't have .NET. So that way I could say on failure, do a break. But if it doesn't matter, if it's like, well, get done as much as you can, then just say continue. So even if this task 1 fails, then go ahead and try and do, the .NET installation or whatever part of my software I need to have done there. Now, one of the things I also want to go over is just some of the different steps that you can do in here. So once create a message window, this just pops open a message window and just gives, and you can have it stay open for so long. Again, you just give it the name, the title, and the message in here. You can also do delete the registry key, so you just basically give it the key you want it to delete, or a value. You can have it do just a value, not the whole key. You can have it install software package, which this specifically looks at managed installs that you have enabled. So if you notice, I have a couple in here already that I've created managed installs for. This basically just lets you piggyback off of that. And these will not get put into that same dependency directory where these are stored. Those actually get stored in the C program data quest case downloads folder, which the downloads folder is where everything for managed installs gets downloaded to. So keep that in mind if you do want to reference something that's in here for these arguments. They're actually going to run out of that download directory. And then you can do different flags. You can say delete the download file once it's done. Anything that was unzipped, you can have it delete that, or both if you wanted to do that as well. Okay, next let's look at some of the other steps we have in here. Let's see, kill a process. Pretty straightforward. You just give it the process name. Now when you do this, at least for Windows, you want to make sure you give it not its friendly name, but its actual name. So like I'm going to open up services here on my box and kind of show you what I mean by that. So like I'm just going to click this one here. So this one's service name is app readiness, all one word, but its display name is app space readiness. So make sure to pick this name if you want that to be a service you want it to stop. All right, next, let's look at some other steps we have in here. Launch a program, we've already been over. Log a registry value. So you could just give it the key and the name, and it will return to you whatever the value is, so you can view it within the script results. Log file information, same thing, except it's going to look at a specific file, not a registry key. Log message, that kind of covered that a little bit here with like having it saying, hey, Java's already installed. Restart a service, same thing as other, you just give it the service name. Run a batch file. So this will let you run the batch file within this context of what we call a case script, which is this whole thing we're looking at. So I could have it, again, check something using like a launch a program step and then have it run my batch file. And I can just paste the contents of my batch file in here. All right, keep cruising here. So next, set a registry key or value. So you could actually have it create keys. You can have it set values. And you just give it the path to the registry keys or the value. Start services, stop service, unzip a file. Now, one thing to comment about this one. So if you attach a zip file to the dependency section up here, we automatically unzip those. This is for, say, something that is already on the box, or you want to, let's say another example, maybe you want to unzip the contents of a zip file you've attached to this to a different directory than other than where it downloaded to. So normally this will download to the dependency directory, the program data folder, and unzip inside of there. But let's say you wanted to unzip into like C Windows Temp. You could actually tell it, okay, we'll unzip it to C Windows Temp. So there's the directory, which I could use this dependency directory, give it the name of the zip file, and then the path to where you want it to unzip to, and it'll actually unzip to that directory. Update message window text. Can't say I use this one that much, to be honest. I think this is for if you're doing like that display a message option. I think that just updates it to say, okay, it's now done. And then upload a file. Upload a file is actually very interesting. So you could actually, and this is a great example where I've used this, I could actually have this upload the K agent log. So that's actually stored in request case user, and it's kagent.log. So I could actually have the agent upload this, and it actually uploads it to the inventory of a device. And I may have an example of that on here actually. So let me go grab an example here. And I have a script that just does that. It just uploads the agent log file. So I don't have to go to the machine and grab it. Now it's going to be based on whatever the last inventory was. So if I had some stuff run in the last hour or two, my interval set to 2 hours, it may not be completely up to date, but it'll be of its last time that script ran and uploaded its results. So here, upload log file, there it is. Open it up in a new tab, there's the log file. Or I could right click it and say, save, save to my desktop or something. But you could do this with all sorts of things. So that's kind of the example I wanted to go over today, is just using scripting in this form of kind of doing a Java cleanup. And one thing I wanted to touch on too is another article that I've done on how to upgrade Windows 10 to Windows 10 as like an in-place upgrade. Now this same article can be used for upgrading, let's say, one of the feature updates, one of the big updates that Windows puts out, and the roll-up updates, if you will. Basically, it's just an ISO, and it just runs the setup.exe and says upgrade. Actually, there's the command right there. It's just really all those in-place updates do. The feature updates, it's just basically does something like that. And so you could do the same thing like that from a script, and that's what this article kind of goes through. So method 1, method 2, method 3, they all do the same thing. They just attack it from a different way. So this one is saying to launch it from a share. So I've already uploaded, the contents of the ISO to a share on my network, and I'm just running it from there. So if you have a pretty simple network setup where you have everything, all in-house, and everybody can see that share, and it's not coming over an MPLS network, and not going to kill your bandwidth of all those machines hitting it, that's probably a good option right there. Simple, easy peasy, just throwing it on a share somewhere. Method 2 is actually taking that and putting it on. Actually, let me look at this. So this is copying it from the share. So instead of running it from the share, this actually takes the contents of what's in that ISO for the Windows 10 and actually copies it down to the machine. So in this example, you can see I have it do a robocopy to see Windows 10 media. It's just a local folder on that machine. Now, the only thing about doing it these two ways is KACE can't clean those up automatically. You'd have to tell it in your script in here to say, okay, once this is done, then delete this. The other way, which is something I thought about later on as I went through this, is using the software catalog to do this, and using managed installations. So that same thing I talked about earlier about uploading your media to the client drop share, that's what this comes over for. So associate it from a file in your Samba share. So if you upload it, the contents of your ISO to there, you could then associate it to a software catalog item. And I'll kind of show you what that looks like here. I can't show the uploading to the file share because I think there's an issue with Windows 10, an option you don't have to turn on for accessing the kind of Samba share we have in our appliance. But under software catalog, once you get it uploaded, I'll kind of show you. Let's see. I probably already have this done on this box, so let's go search for Windows 10. And yep, I do actually. So there's Windows 10 Enterprise. I can see the little file icon. So what I did is I went and found the exact version that I wanted to upload. And you just hit the little plus symbol. And then you'd say choose from Samba share. And right now it's not letting me because there's not any files in there. If there was, you would just choose that, and it would give you the list of files that are there. You just click it and say save. And the great thing about doing it this way, and well, it's actually my favorite option, is because it allows you to replicate and use the replication engine that KACE has. So if you have multiple sites, if you say got 10 different sites and 10 different replication shares, to help save on your bandwidth usage across those MPLS type networks, this lets you leverage that so that you don't have to go manually store that file on each individual share at each individual site. This will just automatically do all that for you. And then from within the managed installation, you can actually just say, okay, we're on my managed installation, choose the software catalog radio button, and then you just pick out what that is. So let's go back to distribution. And I think I have an example of that already. Yep, I do. Windows 10. So what I did is I just made a new managed install and said catalog software. And in this dropdown, I picked that software catalog item where I'd uploaded that ISO contents into here. Not the ISO itself, but everything inside of the ISO file that has the setup.exe and all that in there, and the WIM file. So I just basically had it pick that, and then I said default override, and then gave it the full command, the setup.exe, to be able to run that. So while this isn't using the scripting option for this one, I still wanted to go over this since I'm going to probably put this inside of this article here shortly. I did have another video in here for some reason and it's gone. I'm not sure what happened to it. But I thought this might give kind of a primer, not just for scripting, but kind of for this particular item as well, since it's a very popular piece of discussion for being able to do those feature updates. And since they're so large and we don't include them in our patch feed at this time, that this is a great way to do that, and lets you have more control over those kinds of updates over when you want to run them, and then you can also still do some reporting on those. And let me bring up the article for that for you real quick. Okay, now that I've got the article brought up here. So this article here, KB number 2311264. You will have to have a support Quest account to be able to log in to view this. But this will go over the different kind of branches that are coming up that we'll be supporting for Windows 10, and then it covers how the patch feed works with the different branches for the Vonti, and then it also covers though how to do some reporting on the roll-up update packs. And this video is on our support site that one of our support product leads actually did, and he shows you how to report on that. Since those updates come as just one file, this kind of shows you how you can better report on those kinds of roll-up updates there. And then there's actually the script that I have here available from IT Ninja on there and how to do this. And that's pretty much it. I kind of wanted to show you everybody how to run this script. And, this is an example of doing a script and what the different things do in here. Another thing I think I'll also cover here too is running the scripts themselves. So you can run them one at a time. So let's say I wanted to run this one here. I could just go into here, do the deploy section, pick out a machine, hit run now. But I can also do, the only problem with doing that I've run into is, let's say you're targeting a group of machines and you just said, okay, well, I need to run this, but I just need to run on this 1 or 2 machines. But I don't want to change who I've targeted in here. I don't want to have to remove them all and then, I need to run it on those 2 and then go back and re-add all those machines back. And you may have several smart labels in there targeted and some one-offs that you don't want to have to adjust. So this run now kind of lets you do that. It kind of just a la carte, if you will, lets you target that. So let's say I'm looking at that Java one. I can say, okay, we'll just target that and then pick this one device that I want to run it on. And it just runs it on that one machine. And it basically ignores who you targeted in your actual script and overrides it and says run it on just this machine or just this label of machines that you can pick here. And then once those run, take you to your run now status so that you can view the output and see what stage those are in, running, succeeded, failed, all that good stuff. And one last thing I want to cover are these configuration policies. There's another one of my my favorite, most used sections actually. One in particular is this uninstaller. It seems like I'm always getting questions about how to uninstall software, and I think this is a good, quick way to be able to put together a job that does that. So let's say we're wanting to get rid of something like Adobe Reader. So I could just type in Adobe Reader, and it looks at the software inventory tab, which if you go to inventory and software, it looks at all those titles in there and all the versions. So you may have several different subversions of different types of software. And so you just need to find the one that you want to remove and click it. And our inventory process already goes and gets the uninstall commands and things from the inventory on those machines. So you could simply hit it, and then whatever the manufacturer has put in those keys, we'll just put into here as a command. Now, again, this is what the manufacturer gives. It doesn't mean it's always accurate. Sometimes what the manufacturer gives isn't accurate. So you may need to adjust this depending on what software it is. And I always recommend testing this on some machines, both from KACE and see if you can run this from a command line. So you just kind of put this together from a command line. I can kind of show you a quick example of how I would do this one. So I would say msi exec, and then the directory would be sys in this case, / and then you just say qin. So this is kind of how it's going to put it together whenever it runs. And actually, got too many switches in there. really you probably want to say, actually it's probably more like this. It's probably more like sys /. That's how it's going to run it. MSI exec, and I didn't spell exec right, but that's okay. So that's sort of how it's going to run. It's just running an exec command. It's basically doing a launch a program step and running that. And this GUID, that the QN means quiet non-interactive, /x means to remove, and then that's the GUID for this software that it'll go and look for on that machine to remove it. But you can make this and then hit save, and it will create a script for you based on that, which you could then tweak further if you like. So this is just kind of helping you get started and pick it out for you. And then I would say just run it as is and see if it works. There's some things we also put in here with this wizard. We kind of leave a little breadcrumb so that it only runs one time. We basically verify if this key is there, and if it's not, then we just basically say, okay, well then add the key and then run it. So if it's there, then it's looking basically for that, seeing if this is true, and if it's true, do this. Which in this case, if it's true, then it's not. If it is there, then it wants you to go and look for that. And then it runs, and then there's the command right there, directory sys. There, that's the exe file, the launcher program, and that's the GUID and everything it uses. So a great way to get something uninstalled very quickly. Yeah, and that's it for this tutorial. I hope you all enjoyed it, and if you have any questions, please let me know. I'm going to probably post this again in this article here, and let me know what you think. All right, thanks a lot, guys, and thank you for choosing KACE.